So for the benefit of our viewers, I'd like to introduce Dr. Bryce Fabro. Dr. Brice wears various hats. She's the founder and CEO of Brice Inspired Careers, a career development firm that provides EdTech, education technology solutions to schools through various employability, skill-driven programs. She has over 20 years of experience in the training, leadership, consulting, and knowledge management. Her deeper passion is developing the global Filipino graduate to be future ready. She has also founded another company called Hero Private Limited in Singapore. Hero is a global organization of educational leaders, entrepreneurial communities, industrial employers, and collaborative spaces that connect, inspire, and enable higher employability, results, and opportunities. So once again, Dr. Brice, welcome to the session. So Dr. Brice, my first question to you is, if you were to, describe yourself in 3 words, what would those 3 words be?
I'm a mother, I'm an entrepreneur, and an advocate for change.
What's the association behind these 3 words that you've chosen?
I'm a mother first, more than anything. That's the role that I will never trade off for anything, right? It's the best gift I can offer. That's the role, the best gift role that I can offer to the world because it nurtures my desire to build the nation. I would have a deeper motivation as much as reason or purpose for doing the things I do as an entrepreneur because I'm a mother, right? And an advocate for change because as a mother who had seen entrepreneurship in some realm, I also see that there are things that we need to change. There are problems that need to be addressed, and there are issues that we cannot, just shelve or just put aside. Things that must be discussed, like what we're talking right now, what you've invited me for. I My heart goes out for this, right? Because of course I'm a mom, and as an entrepreneur, I believe I have the duty as much as the fiduciary duty to be able to contribute to the development and to a better world or society for that matter.
If I were to also ask you, these 3 words that you actually chose, would you have chosen these words, say, 15 or 20 years before?
Maybe the mother will not be there.
Right.
But as an entrepreneur, yes, because I've been a mom for the last 6 years of my life. All right. As an entrepreneur, I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years. But as an advocate for change, I think as early as grade 6, I knew that I wanted to be a change maker.
Do you think there has been any transformation in the way of your thinking from your childhood to where you are right now?
Talk about transformation, of course. We evolve as individuals as we age, right? From a girl to a woman, of course, my perspectives have changed a lot. But one thing that I believe remained constant is my belief that there must be equality between what men achieve and what women achieve, what men receive and what women receive. That had always been constant with me.
What has been your biggest achievement to date, Dr. Brice?
It's maybe the kind of influence that that I am able to share with a lot of people, and it's the community that we have, which is a listening community, which is a loving community. Yeah, it's that community that we have helped create that means a lot to how I see achievement or accomplishment at this particular time. Influence for me is it's such a great achievement, right?
Is what has been the role of your parents in this journey, Dr. Brice?
That's quite an intriguing question because um, biologically, I don't know my biological. I mean, but my biological parents were not known to me until this very time. I was raised by three spinsters. Okay, and they they did not really, if I were to define parenthood or parenting kind of support, I don't think I was given a complete version of that growing up. So um, that's I think where my motivation or my drive is coming from. I wanted to live purposively because of the things that I felt I did not have before, and I don't want the same Bryce in the future to experience it. So that's what it is. I was more. My parent was more the community, not the not the usual parents. I think my experience of having parents is maybe in the village that I grew up in. So I got the support, not the usual support maybe, but I was able to get good insights from the village that I grew up in, and I was able to learn from these insights. Some were given to me lovingly, others were there because the experience presented itself, but all right, that's what it is.
Do you think then in your childhood, how necessary was active parenting, because you were raised not, I mean, you're not aware about your biological parents, so the people who raised you up, were they involved in active parenting or passive parenting?
Um, Kind of middle, right? They weren't so passive, they weren't so active. All right. But there was guidance. I should not forget that. There was guidance, there was love, there was care. I could have asked for more, right? Affection and all of this. Because I felt growing up I was emotionally battered, right? There was this struggle in my childhood. I've been I've been called many names because when I got into this village and I grew up in this village, the preconceived information about me was I was born by my mom was a prostitute. So I was sold to these three spinsters. All right. So that's the story. That's why there were a lot of emotional struggles growing up, and I was rejected, I was humiliated, shamed for so many circumstances, right?
Do you have a favorite childhood memory that you could recollect right now?
Yeah, of course. I think it's more of the time I played outside. I'm an outdoor person, very outdoorsy. So every time I've gotten the chance to play with friends outside, climb trees and just while the time up in the tree. I'm a tree climber, all right? Any time that I remember that I try to recall the tree time I had, those were really favorite memories of mine.
Since you were raised by three spinsters,
Right.
did they make you feel safe in your childhood?
They surely did. They surely did. I thank them for that. Right. Threats, definitely. There were threats. Because my neighbors, I grew up in a village that definitely is not a rich village. So there are drunkards around. There are, violence. I've witnessed violence. There were husbands beating up wives in my neighborhood. I saw that firsthand. And um, I was protected enough because I was kept in a place that nobody can come snatch me or hurt me. But I wasn't protected enough during my innocent years because my eyes were not covered or my ears were not covered, or I wasn't I wasn't really shielded, not to see it and not to hear it. All right. So that's it. And I know with my girls right now, I do not want them to even hear any violence and see any violence. That's how I protect my girls right now. I was not given that much protection in that sense. Right. A safe space is a place where your dignity is protected. That's one. A safe space for me is a place where you do not fear for your life. You do not fear for any violation to happen to you anytime. There's no threat. You can sleep easy, right? There are no words that would humiliate you. That's a safe space. You are raised or you are around people who are consciously parenting you or consciously surrounding you, right? People who are careful with the words, because I believe violation is not just physical, or pain is not just coming from a physical infliction. It's a lot of pains that I have are emotional, right? So when people around that place you're in would just throw nasty thoughts, comments, and all of these verbal abuses, then that's not a safe place at all for me.
Was there any particular incident that you'd like to tell our viewers that you did feel unsafe in your growing up years?
I maybe it wasn't on a physical threat level, but on the emotional, yes, because there were judgments all around. I remember when I was in the grades, I think because I wasn't related in any blood by any blood relationship, so the treatment was like not so solid. So people around me, my aunt, uh, some people around me, relatives for that matter, would predict that I will end up as a prostitute, and that's a violation to my dreams, to my space. You predicting what I'll end up in. You know what I mean? So there were people around my space saying that, why put her to school? Why would you even invest time and money to her? She would be a prostitute just like her mother, something like that. So that tormented me as a child. But the good thing there is I was able to process all of this, and like Martin Seligman, the author of Positive Psychology, said there are three cognitive distortions in our brain. How do your personalization, your pervasiveness, or permanence. So I was able to like make a stand. Is the glass half full or half empty? I have to turn myself into an optimist, or else I wouldn't be here in this room with you today. Equality happens only when justice is served on the same platform, without considering gender. Um, I remember a story shared by Oprah Winfrey in one of her interviews. The thing that allowed Oprah, or the thing that pushed Oprah to start her own show then, was because she learned that the male anchor in that outfit that she was working for, was paid twice than her, and they're doing the same job. And when she went to her manager or to her boss, the answer she got was, well, she's a man, he's a provider of his family. You're a woman, you don't have a husband, you don't have a family. Why do you need that much pay like him? Right? That kind of nudged me. Some would still have that kind of thinking at this particular time, that you don't need what you need just because you're a woman, or you don't need to be this strong because you're a woman, or you're just a woman. I believe that we have to be valued in this society based on the qualification and the contribution we can give, not because of our sexes, right? Or not even because of our background, where we came from, if we were or born rich or born poor, but what's your contribution? That's how they should value us, and that's how equality should be served.
Could you share an experience in your life where you have ever experienced inequality?
um, Maybe on some opportunities, right? I was applying for a scholarship before in one of the prestigious grantors, and I was told that I did not graduate from the school that were listed as prime schools in their list. So I wasn't even given the chance to even speak and introduce myself. I was just judged and given that served that prejudice just because I wasn't in the school list that that is not, in their list. So I felt that's not equality. You know what I mean? Why do we have those qualifications? You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's the only memory I have for now. Maybe I had experiences, but I haven't given it much thought. But that comes out easy, right now.
Mm.
Well, privilege is a mindset. Um, I believe so, because I was able to see the good and the bad. I wasn't shielded. I wasn't too much protected. I was allowed to feel my own pain, to see prejudices as they happened. Uh, I was given the grit to move on with enough guidance and love and protection that my community can afford. So that to me is privilege. Yes.
What exactly is your understanding of entitlement?
Entitlement is when you want something you did not work for. You just
Mhm.
want it because you feel you deserve it, right? Or you're getting something that that is bigger than what is ought to be there, or what you think. Like, um, here's a story. There is a tribe in my country. They call the Aitas. They have been called as the carer of the mountain because they have a very high sense of nobility. When they see bananas, a full banana stuff there, they wouldn't take all of that banana piles or whatever home. They will only count how many members of their family would be eating each, of this banana, and they will only take home or bring home what their family can eat, and they will leave some because they're thinking that there will be another family that might see the banana and might eat it, But other tribes, other regions in my country would definitely think otherwise. They see an opportunity, they grab it all, right? They take it all. So, going back to your thing, I believe, without nobility, we cannot we cannot get into as a conversation like this.
This culture of entitlement has caused problems in the society that we live in.
Definitely, definitely. Even in a small places like, small organizations, when somebody feels or somebody starts thinking that they are more, how do you call this? They are more indispensable, or the linchpin in the organization, or things like that, and they would deserve more than the other. Then think that that alone is an unfair play of of how you look at justice. You talk about justice, but you want more than what you deserve, or you're trying to feel more superior than the other person. That is entitlement. It's a broad subject matter altogether, I believe. It can be seen in different practices, but that's it. When you think of yourself more superior than the other person, you have displayed that entitlement. And our culture the culture that I see right now has allowed the perpetration of such an entitlement. Actually, that's why even in hospitals, right, you see people, those who can afford, they'd be given a pass. They'd be given more privilege than those who have less, right? And
Right.
it's that's so sad. You go to a government office in my country, you would see a long queue of people wanting to file a loan or to get the benefits of their social security system. Whereas those who would be having their cars and having all of this, they feel so entitled. They wouldn't even have to. How come, right? So that's a constant pain in my heart every time I see this, right? We have lived in this culture without much mindfulness, I think, and we just do things because that is how it is. So if you are well dressed, if you have a car, you get down to an office, the guard wouldn't even question you. They would even ask you to, like, you just feel so entitled that you can just do what you want. But those who have less, they'll have to suffer more. How can that be? Right?
Right.
Um, I don't have the exact number, but I believe there's a lot of it in this world. I've worked many years ago with as a researcher for a barangay, a village in one of the cities in the Philippines, and we have to interview and find out how many children are experiencing it. So in a barangay of less than 30,000 people, with about, let's say, 30-40% children, at least 5 to 10% of the 30% have suffered or experienced abuse, right? So
Right.
the question is, what do I think about it? Is that a question?
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at your understanding in terms of how many children do you think get affected by it, and you did mention 30 to 40%,
Right.
based on your
Maybe,
experience.
yeah, maybe for every 100, maybe there's like about 15 to maybe 5 to 15 for every 100 children, especially
Okay.
in poor villages, in vulnerable homes.
Okay.
Right.
So, according to you, who typically sexually abuses children, Dr. Bryce?
From that research, I'm gonna base it from the research. Those who are
Yes.
abused, yeah, from that many years ago, um, from what we gathered, those who are closely associated to the child,
Okay.
those that are something that can have a power over the child, either a brother, an older brother, an uncle, or somebody who has more power than the child, is definitely a tentative candidate as the abuser, something like that,
Mhm. Okay.
based on that research. Yes.
Okay. And based on your research, when do you think that child sexual abuse takes place?
When do you think, when you say when, at what age, or
No, I say, yeah, you could say at a particular age, or you could say about a particular situation. When does it take place?
when the for the age, I can tell you, I have a friend whose daughter, I mean, it's actually an kind of incest kind of abuse, because the father raped a 2-year-old child. I have this
Mm-hmm.
personal experience as and this is my godchild, right? The one who was
Right.
raped by 2 years old happens to be my godchild. All right. So age wise, it doesn't matter, right? It could be as young as 2 years old. How heart quenching that is. But as to when, normally it's when everybody's comfortable in the presence of the abuser. When there is no, when the abuse is not given a thought. There was no healthy paranoia happening. I have a healthy paranoia. I won't let my girls be cradled or sit down on the lap of any man, any male person in my house. That's my rule, right? Because I live with a healthy paranoia. But the abuse happens when nobody practices consciousness. When everybody thinks that it's not going to happen, that's when it could happen. I believe. That's just my simple opinion. Right. We have a law that protects. I'm not too particular of the RA or the Republic Act, but definitely we have several laws that had been enacted to protect the rights of the child, protection of the child. And we have a wonderful organization called Bantay Bata 143 that was established by Gina Lopez many years ago, that rescues anyone for that matter. And they just don't rescue. They also help the abuser get caught and let justice be served to the abuser. Yeah, so it's a whole circle basically.
Right. And considering our own country, India, are you aware about the laws in our country, India, for child sexual abuse?
Not very particular. I just started reading about it, but not very particular.
Right. I've actually mentioned some part of it in the background note, so probably you could go through it later on as well.
Right, sure. Yeah, I was reading. But to say that
Right.
I know that I understand, I'm just a paragraph read away. Right,
That's okay. That's perfectly fine.
right.
Awareness is essential. Aware about what exactly is the POXO Act?
I've read about it, but to know, I mean, to a deeper sense, no. Right,
Okay, perfect. That's not an issue. Are
right.
you aware about what are the reporting mechanisms under the POXO Act? So, for example, if a child is being sexually abused, how do you report the abuser?
I am in my country. In my country, I am aware of how it's done because I'm a member of the Zonta International. Right, it's an organization of women that definitely stands against violence. All right, so we have series of seminars and trainings before about how to do about this. I'm not sure if this is totally, you know, covering the world and all of these things, but in my country, I am. Yes.
All right. And when you talk about the laws in your country, do you think stringent laws and harsher punishments are required under the purview of this law?
It has to be. Yes, I believe it is. Reclusion perpetua, or, well, there had been talks that anyone found out abusing a woman and a child in my country would definitely have the highest, the death penalty, basically. But my
Okay.
but my question in my mind, I always ask, given the stringent punishment and all of these things, why do we still have abusers? There's no study and evidence that stringent law had actually lessened the the effect, or lessen the issues or the cases. I still have to read maybe, but from my knowledge, from what I know, it did not have an effect at all.
Exactly. So let me give you certain examples, certain
Mhm.
behaviors, and then you probably mention your opinion about the same.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. The first behavior. So, would you think touching the breast of a child while she is wearing clothes would be considered as child sexual abuse?
It is, of course, because that's a private part.
Right. Uh, Showing nude pictures to a child, would that be considered as child sexual abuse?
It is. It's a corruption and it's an abuse.
Showing
Corruption,
your own. Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
corruption of her innocence, or his innocence. Yes, it is.
Right. Exhibitionism, which is predominantly, showing your own body private parts to a child. Do you think that would be considered as child sexual abuse?
Yes, of course, of course.
We live in a digital world, and we sometimes get a lot of messages which sometimes are little sexual in nature, or a little gender biased.
Right.
Do you think sharing those lewd jokes with a child would also be considered under the purview of child sexual abuse?
Yes, of course, it is. If I suspect, then I'll investigate further. Personally, I'll investigate further. I'll probe. And if I don't get anything, even a slight kind of nuance happening there, then I have to call the attention of whoever is the guardian, or you know in the family, and I would have to really move forward. If not, if I have more evidence, I'll definitely go to DSWD, or the Department of Social Welfare, right? And I
Right.
have to talk to the counselor or to whoever and report at least an investigation. I have to say, this is what is happening. I feel I might be wrong, but I'd rather be wrong than right.
Suspected abuser or confront him?
Um, Maybe no, not directly, but I'll have to talk to the child, to the victim, basically, at this time, right?
Okay. What will you say to the child, Dr. Bryce?
I will ask. I will definitely have three questions. Were you comfortable when, this I have observed, or this was how I was told? Were you comfortable when that was done to you? So I'll ask for comfortability of the child. I will ask the child if that child feels that was right, that kind of thing was right, in his or her perspective. And number three, what was there any threat given to the child, or imposed on him, something like that. So those were the three questions I will ask. We're working right now with a program called Emotional Reset, and from my reading, it takes a lifetime to overcome such a trauma. They will, but it takes so much time before they can actually do it. It's like bearing a hole at the middle of their head, of the brain. It's a major operation for them to get over it. Right. He will grow up confused, and when he understood what really happened, he would be angry. Um, he will live a pathetic life, basically. I know of a leader. I know of a leader. Our president, okay, because he's open to this one. He had been abused by priests. He's been saying that in his speech, right? Every time he speaks, or it's a nation he's addressing. This is my current president right now. He would always say how the priest abused him when he was a boy. And I believe most of his decisions and all the pain that he carries and everything else that's in his heart is coming from that. And when I hear him, I say, he needs a therapy. He hasn't really been, um, we call that, the post trauma, still there.
Right.
So
Right.
he needs a lot of process. I can still hear the boy in him crying. Right.
Dr. Will the elder sister do now?
She should talk to her mom, or because of course that's the uncle, right? So she can confront right away because she witnessed it and she's at the home.
Right.
But if you're an outsider, it's a different thing, right? But if you're a member of the family and your older brother is telling you about this, then go ahead and confront. Or if not, as you confront, tell another older person in the family, your parents, and ask. Maybe it's like asking, this is what my brother said. Can we ask? Maybe it would be wiser for that sister to include the parents in asking uh,
Right.
what happened, probe and ask why her brother is saying what he said, something like that.
Right. And do you think somebody from the family or the parents would actually confront the uncle?
They have to. As if I were a parent, I will definitely be on the forefront in confronting and finding out and getting at the bottom of things. Yes, they should because he's the reference. He's the first reference. So whatever he says, they have to verify it with the uncle, right? But
Right.
again, understand the motivation why the child is saying what he's saying. It has to be clear as well. And if they need help, they can always run to a professional psychologist to process things, right?
Right.
Because of course, we're guided when we have all this emotional stuff happening or going on. We tend to play. We tend our bias plays heavier because we're
Right.
working with our emotions. So it's best to still get a counselor from the SWD or to a support group that can help facilitate the process. I would recommend that to happen.
Right. Right. Do you think this episode of child sexual abuse would be discussed openly in the nuclear family?
Depends on the culture, right? Because the culture of shame is prevalent in different places, right? Sometimes the reason why abusers are confident or are doing what they do is because they know that shame could play a big part. Shame will protect them, right? And that's why I believe in Brene Brown. Let's talk about shame because it silenced the abusers, right? Silence the
Right.
abusers, right?
Do you think this issue will also be discussed in the extended family?
From where I'm coming from, it might not be. It might not be because again of how shame plays the role,
Right.
especially if this is happening around the family. If it's an uncle doing it, or you know, right?
Right. Do you think the family would actually try to find out if another child has undergone a similar experience?
There is a probability, yes, they will, right? Well, they can do that. They can do that. Why not?
Mhm.
There is a law in my country that anyone, even if you're not the immediate family, if you have seen that there's an abuse, like to women, to children, you can file a case against the offender.
Okay,
Right.
great. So in our country, we have something called as the POXO e-box, wherein if you are a bystander, you can actually report this child sexual abuse anonymously. Is that there in
Right.
your country as well?
Yes. Yes. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, that's right.
Okay. So do you think that as we are creating awareness, the families or for that matter, people who are not related to the families, they should make use of this reporting mechanism, the
Of
POXO
course.
e-box,
Of course. Of course. Because
right?
it's an available access uh, to know more or to get more information, right? It's
Right.
better to prevent it, even the slightest hint or clue, act on it, rather than let it go and until the damage is just too big. to fix. Right? If it's in my neighborhood and I have seen it, I have felt it, then definitely I will report the abuse. I'm one who will not let it pass. That's one. I will not also end in reporting it. I will make sure that I protect the one who is abused. I will offer help right away. If that means asking the child to leave the home or having somebody to be with the child or whatever means, it has to be done, right? If it happens in my family, God forbids, right? Then I will do everything to put the abuser, to jail, or at least for the abuser to stop doing it for good. That's what I'll do.
Great. So
And
that was
at the
really
same time,
insightful.
right? At the same time, help the abused get over it by having this uh, sessions, therapy sessions. We have to debrief them earlier before damage is done. Right? I am a Rakshan.